Welcome, everyone, to the Fright Corner podcast. I'm your host, John, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Jeff. Jeff, how we doing tonight?
Pretty good. How about you?
Doing great. We are actually recording on October 2nd, 2016, and on this episode, we are going to review the movie Troll Hunter from 2010. Jeff is going to review the game H1Z1, and then our second movie will be The Burning from 1981. And to start off, we're going to do some horror news. Just a few items that came up that I kind of wanted to share. The first thing I want to share was there is a new Child's Play movie in development. Don Mancini is going to head it like he's done all the rest of them. He mentioned that Jennifer Tilly will be coming back to reprise her role, as well as Fiona Dourif, who is Brad Dourif's daughter, who does the voice of Chucky, will be coming back. She premiered in that last Curse of Chucky movie as the paralyzed girl. So, a little bit of continuation there, probably. The next bit of news I want to talk about is Friday, October 7th. Phantasm 5 Ravager will be released on video on demand and in select theaters. And, of course, this is going to round out the series for Phantasm that started back in the 70s, and it's just going to finally finish now, especially after the passing of Angus Scrimm, who we all know was the tall man. I don't think you could do a movie like that without him, because he is just the tall man. Next bit of item is The Purge, the writer-director. He is going to be bringing his series to the small screen. He wants to do like a 10-hour miniseries, for possibly local TV, or cable TV, I guess you could call it, or streaming service, which I think streaming service would fit that a lot better, just because of what's involved with the movie, the movies in general. Lots of violence and stuff, and I think that's what you need. You definitely need. I think it needs to be on a streaming service more than anything. The paid channels like HBO and stuff, they could probably get away with it just fine, but I think you'd reach more people on the streaming service, though, with Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, something like that.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned that last week, actually, too, is with the streaming services, you can actually get away with a little bit more, you have a little bit more creative freedom. It seems like Netflix, usually, if they go with somebody, they trust them to, put out some good content. Kind of like with Adam Sandler, they contracted him for those 6 or 7 movies, and they're giving him almost complete creative control, like they're letting him have the reins. And so I think it's the same with maybe a lot of other specific things that Netflix helps put together. So I think it's a good deal all around. They're letting the creators be creative,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great idea. I'm looking forward to that. I'm really curious to see where they go. I mean, The Purge is not my favorite series. I don't even know if I classify that as horror as much as I do maybe just a action violent movie. It's got a little bit more violence in it than others anymore, but I don't know if you classify it as a horror movie. I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of torture and stuff they're going through that you're seeing on screen, so.
Yeah, kind of a suspense thing.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess that could fall into a subcategory of horror with the suspense, but that'd be about it. The last thing I want to talk about here is Turner Classic Movies released their lineup for October for the horror movies. And they're going to go pretty heavy on the classic Universal horror movies. Like Sunday night tonight, I knew they were showing Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein. They've got a weekend with Wolfman. They're going to do some Christopher Lee Dracula movies. They're going to do some Bela Lugosi Dracula movies, Wolfman, Lon Chaney, all them guys. It's going to be fun. If you haven't seen the classics, this is definitely time that you can set your DVR, if you got one, and just check it out. I mean, I'm curious to see how much my DVR can hold at this point for the month to see what happens. That's all I've got for news-wise. The only other thing that's been happening is Friday night, and it's been released on the Horrorcast. I got a chance to go on there with them guys and do the running commentary on the Return of the Living Dead. And, I mean, I had a blast doing it. Great guys. I mean, I enjoyed being with Mark Nato, Walshy, the Revenant Ben, all of them. They were great guys to commentate with and had a lot of fun doing it. And I look forward to maybe possibly doing it again eventually, maybe. Or have them come on and we'll do a commentary on this one sometime. It was just a good time. I do apologize. My Skype apparently had a fit that night, and I was having connection problems. We tried hanging up and recalling to reconnect. It worked for a while, but kept going in and out. I'm very sorry about that. Anybody that hears that, but you'll still get a lot of information out of it for sure. But yeah, just go over to the horror cast. I share it on Twitter, on the Facebook page, and everything. So just please check out their show and check out the commentary and let us know how we did. And also coming up in a couple of weeks, we have the Horror Movie Night guys coming on. We're going to be doing a kind of a battle retrospective, I guess. We're going to be reviewing the original 1980 Maniac movie, and then we're going to look at the 2012 Elijah Wood remake of Maniac. And just kind of go over those two and just see what happens and see about, just kind of see what happens. Maybe we'll compare them and see what they did right and wrong and go from there. But I think that's going to be a pretty fun episode. I'm not sure how many of them's going to come on with us, but I think it'll be fun in the end. That's all I've got here that's coming up. So I guess, if nothing else, we will go on to our movie reviews. In our first movie, we are reviewing Troll Hunter from 2010. This is a Norwegian found footage style film. It is subtitled. You can find it on Netflix, Hulu, probably video on demand services. It has a 7 out of 10 rating on IMDb. And it was directed by Andre Overdahl. It was also written by him. He hasn't done a whole lot of other stuff. It's been a lot of documentaries or shorts that he's done. He does have one coming out called Autopsy of Jane Doe. It comes out this December. I looked up the trailer, and it looks really good to me. It's not a found footage film. It's a Steadicam movie, and I'm looking forward to it. It looks really good. It's got English. It's got regular American actors and stuff, and it's filmed here in America. It looks really good. I'd highly recommend it. I guess, Jeff, do you want to read a synopsis of it, or do you want me to do that for you?
Well, I don't have the synopsis in front of me, but I can say basically what the film's about. This small group of, I don't know if I'd call them teens or not, but they're early 20s, mid-20s. This trio, they go off and they're trying to make a documentary basically about this guy who they think is poaching bears. And turns out he's not actually poaching bears. He claims that he is a contracted, employee of the Norwegian government to hunt trolls and take out trolls that have, strayed out of their regulated zone, basically. And trolls aren't known to be smart and that kind of thing, so they often wander out of their area. And they've been doing it more regularly lately. And so basically, that's the premise for the film: is this camera crew following around this supposed troll hunter. So it's pretty interesting. I didn't know that it was going to be, I knew it was a Norwegian film, but I didn't know it wasn't going to be English coming into it. So when I saw it was a subtitled film, I was like, because, that's how most people are with subtitles, is they're like, I don't know if I want to sit through all that. But then, once you really get into it, you don't even think about it, you just watch the movie.
Absolutely. And plus, what helped is it intrigued you. They had a story going along with it, too. I mean, it kept you involved into the movie, where you're sitting there, okay, what's happening next? Okay, what, did this guy really shoot a bear? What's going on here? Is he poaching him? And they're starting to follow him, and the development of the movie worked real well, the way it unfolded. You weren't given everything right at first. Obviously the title lets you know that, somebody hunting trolls, but you just don't realize what it's all about until you start really getting into it. And the farther it goes, it's like, wow, this is getting really good. So now after a while, you're kind of thinking, well, is this real, or is this guy lost his mind?
Yeah, exactly. And so when we first start watching it, I realized that it was kind of a found footage film and that it had subtitles. And like I said, it wasn't an issue at all. I mean, there's one point where they do have some people come in who are speaking English. And, I didn't even notice. I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, they're speaking. Oh, wait a minute. So, after a second, I realized it. But yeah, and the suspense leading up to it. I mean, the very first time that they show a troll on screen, you are in suspense a little bit, because you hear it long before you actually see it, and you hear him describe these things, and when you finally see it, it's really, really crazy. And plus, this is an independent film, more or less, so the budget's not crazy high. This isn't Transformers, but still, they looked pretty good. I mean, they weren't perfect, obviously, but for what they were working with, the trolls looked really good. And if you just suspend disbelief for a little while, you can really enjoy this film, and I liked it a lot. Like, halfway through the movie, I was like, wow, this is really badass.
Oh, I'm with you all on that, because even being the found footage, even with the shaky cam and stuff, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was pretty good. And you had, like you said, the trolls, they were CGI. They weren't perfect by any means, but the way they filmed them, it wasn't that bad, though. I mean, it was easy to overlook that. And what I think I liked the most about this was, for the troll-wise anyway, is no two were the same, really. I guess there was that little cubby of them that were kind of the same, type, but you got to see different variations. Like, they really did some creativeness to get them to look different. They weren't all just duplicates of each other. You didn't see the same thing over and over and over, which I found pretty neat. So.
Yeah, and it had some humor in there too, which was pretty nice. But yeah, I think there were 3 different types, and each one had slight different variations. And in the end, it reveals that they actually had rabies, and that's why they were strolling off and they're acting so crazy. And that they're not very smart, but they can. What the really funny part was that they could apparently smell a Christian man, and so like. One of the trio of the camera crew is actually a Christian man, and so like at one point, that comes into play, and it's really funny how that worked out. It kind of plays off of the old children's tale, but also he's like, that's the hunter. He's like, that's not quite accurate, the children's stories, but the way it all works out. And then like when he actually has to collect blood from one of the trolls at one point, and so he can't just like walk up and kill it or anything, and so like just seeing it smack him around, and it's funny. So I really enjoyed the film. I can't say enough good things about it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And one thing that I did like about this is whenever they were taking and they're going through the countryside and stuff, all the scenery of where they filmed it, which was mostly in Norway and all that, and the scenery was just so beautiful. The mountains, the forest, you see all the waterfalls on the side. I enjoyed the scenery a lot. I mean, to me, that was a standout point, seeing all that in the background. It's like, wow, that is just beautiful country out there. So, that
it's
was one of
gorgeous.
my favorite parts.
Yeah, for sure. And so, I mean, yeah, I really liked the film a lot. It kept my attention all the way through. I highly recommend it. I actually gave it a 5-star rating on Netflix just because I want this guy to do more, and I want more people to see this movie. So I gave it 5 stars there. Here, I'm going to give it probably a 4.5 out of 5, just because I liked it so much. And also a bit of news with this. I think I saw on Netflix, I think at the top of the little area, the synopsis area, there is actually a part 2 that's coming out very soon. So I can't give you an exact date on that, but I know there will be a second one. So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, that should be pretty good. I didn't realize that either. I guess I never looked up there myself, but no, I enjoyed this one. I mean, I think my Netflix rate, I think I gave it a 5 out of 5 on there just because I like to see it promoted more on Netflix. But here I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. So really, I mean, there's not much wrong with it. Some of the hokiness, a little bit of it, the dialogue gets kind of, a couple of places aren't that great, but other than that, they threw in the humor, which was fine. Even the CGI on the trolls weren't that bad. I would like to have seen if they could have done a little bit of practical effect in some of it, but it's still no big deal, though. I mean, that's probably the only reason I would dock it at all, is just for those couple of things. But being an independent movie, you don't have a big enough budget to do all that stuff, so
yeah, and it's
use what's available.
True, yeah, and it's also tough because like these trolls, they're massive. Like at the very end, the troll that they're dealing with is, I don't know, what would you say, like 20 stories tall? I mean, it's huge.
Oh yeah, well the last one they deal with, I think, is much bigger than that. So
yeah, so I mean,
especially when you get that shot of them in the back, when they're sitting there watching drive up to this last one or walk up to this last one, you see the size of it. It's like, holy crap!
Yeah, it dwarfs a vehicle. So. Yeah, it was definitely interesting. Plus, the way that they did it, some of the night vision on the camera, they would use that to also view the trolls. So that changes the perspective a little bit too. So it's kind of interesting the way they went after it.
Yeah, and a little bit of trivia on this one is the movie itself contains several characters were actually played by comedians in Norwegia, and and I guess they say that they're all high-profile comedians in Norway and stuff, so that's kind of neat that he got them, but yet they played serious roles. the one that played the troll hunter himself, the power plant supervisor, the guy supplying the bear when they're setting up to look like it was a bear attack, and then the guy, the Finn, that actually ran the whole secret operation. I guess he's a comedian as well, but they all played a serious role. I wouldn't realize they were comedians, in all honesty.
Yeah, that's crazy. I would have had no idea. They were very serious, except for the guy who was setting up the bear. They were pretty funny.
Yeah,
those were the ones that spoke English.
Yeah, they spoke kind of broken English, and yeah, whatever. Yeah, bear. It's a good-looking bear. It'll work. It's like,
yeah,
they'll believe that. Like, no, you're not gonna get paid that much. It's not the right type of grizzly bear. That's not.
That's
Russian.
Right.
It's a Siberian.
I forgot it.
So
yeah.
Let's see. Another thing is Summit Entertainment bought the rights to produce an American remake before this film's initial release.
Oh, wow.
I don't think I've seen it ever come out yet, so I don't know if it's in development or if it's just been lost in the work or something. So I didn't look up too much on that yet, though. So
that's another one I'm kind of conflicted about.
Yeah, why would they want to go off and remake it right now? Because I thought they did just fine with this. I mean, where are you going to remake it at? Trolls in America? Where are they going to be hiding at? New York? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I would do it in Canada probably, but I don't know. I mean, we always do that. There's so many great Japanese films, especially horror films, that we remake over here, Grudge, The Ring, all that stuff, and then, like, Old Boy, that awesome Korean movie, and then they did it here, and so, I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I understand. And, of course, as we mentioned before, the film contains several references to old Scandinavian folklore. For example, the goats on a bridge and a troll under it, or a reference to Three Billy Goats Gruff. At one point, Thomas mentions an eating competition, a reference to the story Askalinda, which I'm assuming is probably a Scandinavian folklore, so I have to look that up and check it out a little bit. But yeah, but you could tell they use reference from that, definitely, for the folklore of it. But yeah, all in all, really good movie. I think people should watch it. Really, it's a fun movie to sit down and watch, in all honesty. For being found footage and stuff and subtitled, I think you'd have fun watching it.
Oh, yeah.
And Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you do your game review at this point.
All right. So this week I'm doing H1Z1, as John mentioned at the top of the show. This is actually still in early development, early access, so I'm not actually going to give a full review, but I'm going to give kind of my early impressions on the game. I've owned it for quite a while. I've put probably 30 hours into the Just Survive mode. It's actually branched off into two games. There's H1Z1 Just Survive, which is exactly what it says, where you pretty much just survive out in the wild. And this is a zombie game. I guess I should mention that. It's basically a zombie survival type game. There's lots of things involved, like crafting and all that. It's first person or third person, depending on which style you prefer. Right now it's only on PC, but I think it is being made by Sony, so I think that it is going to see a PlayStation release at some point. But yeah, so it's very realistic in the fact that you can like take your shirt and you can rip it apart to make cloth, and you can use that to make bandages and things like that. You can actually use sticks and cloth and things to make a bow and arrow, and so you can kill the zombies that way. There are guns, there are vehicles, and you have to find spare parts to repair certain vehicles or find gas for the vehicles. There's a lot of in-depth type stuff, and the map is fairly large too. And so, I mean, just more examples. You can find an axe out in the wild, or you can raid a police station. But you can find the axe in most places. You can chop down trees to get wood. So you can build structures like houses, and you can put all sorts of stuff. Spikes that zombies will walk into and basically kill themselves. It's a lot like The Walking Dead almost. So you've also got H1Z1 King of the Kill, which is kind of a take on King of the Hill, I guess. And in this mode, it's basically a King of the Hill type game where you start out on the main map, and you start out with usually I think 60 other players, maybe more than that. And basically these gases start coming in, and if you're in the green gas area, basically the premise would be that they're bombing the area, to kill all of the dead, all of the zombies, and so you have to keep moving inland to avoid this gas, and eventually you end up on a mountaintop, and there are other players who are out against you, and you can find guns much easier and ammo and stuff like that, so you have to worry about other players killing you, and that, again, usually in most of these situations, other players are the biggest danger. Not even just the zombies, but there are a lot of zombies. And some of the latest patches they put out, they've increased the numbers, exponentially of the hordes of zombies. And so there are cityscapes. There's lots of open grassy areas where you can build. There's just a lot to it and a lot to find. And right now, that's about all there is. There's no real story behind it or anything like that. It's basically just a zombie survival game. And so I really like it for what it is, and I'm hoping that they put out more for it. But right now, I would definitely recommend it just to check out. I think it's only like $15 right now for early access. And then when it actually does do the full release, you don't have to pay anything extra, because you're helping beta test this. So I think now is a good time to get into it and check it out. Like I said, don't expect a huge story or anything like that. Basically, you can play between the two modes. Certain people prefer certain ways. So, but yeah, H1Z1, it's a pretty good deal, and so I would check it out if you get the time or if you have a PC that can run it. It doesn't require a very high-end PC. You can lower down the settings and still be just fine. So they're always working on it. The last update just came out on September 23rd. So, today's the 2nd of October, so it's not been too long. If you think about PC, you can get updates pretty quickly in succession, so there's no limit, on what days you can do it. So, yeah, check out H1Z1. It's a good horror game, good horror survival game, especially for the realism aspect of it. So, I recommend it.
All right, sounds good. Definitely one to check out. Okay, I guess next we're going to move on to our review of The Burning from 1981. This has an IMDb rating of 6.5 out of 10 and is directed by Tony Maylam, who has not really done much else except for documentaries. He done two or three feature films, most of them have been documentaries. He helped write the story, as well as the Weinstein brothers, Harvey and Bob, who helped do the story and the screenplay. Special effects were done by Tom Savini, who is by far one of my favorite practical effects guys. He's done a lot of stuff. This movie, the three big stars in it are Jason Alexander, Fisher Stevens, and Holly Hunter, and this was actually their first feature film debut. And, not too bad of a movie. I'll give a little bit of a plot here. It's a former summer camp caretaker, horribly burned from a prank gone wrong. He gets released from the institution and sets out to find the camp, and I'm assuming the way it looked from the story, he finds these other campers and he's going to kill anybody he has to get to avenge the prank that gone wrong to him. So, that's pretty well it. That's a simple movie for the most part. But I enjoyed it. It was kind of fun. I definitely liked the gore. I think they toned it back because I'm sure in the 80s, like always, they had a fit with gore, so they had to tone it back some here and there, so you're going to find a lot of cutaway scenes where they don't actually show the gore, but really, I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was pretty good. I don't know what else to say. I know my first note that I wrote here whenever I was watching it, and they kind of showed some of the main actors in it. First notes, holy shit, Jason Alexander had hair. But other than that, really the movie was pretty good. You got a story, you got a little bit of build-up, you had some suspense, but then you had the gore as well. You had the murders and stuff in it, so pretty good little slasher film.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting in the fact that this movie, I guess, actually started development before Friday the 13th, but then it released afterward, I think. And so it's odd how similar it is to Friday the 13th, especially being in the summer camp setting and, the murdering off of the kids, or the teens kind of usually one by one. But there's actually a scene where he gets a bunch of them all at the same time, which is kind of a departure from the normal, slasher film. Usually it's one at a time, but kind of thing, the stuff that stood out would be that in particular. I wasn't very impressed at the beginning of the movie when the woman gets killed by him, like the very first, lady. She just, I hate to sound bad, but she has horrible, like, stripper makeup on, and she's an old lady, and she just gets, like, taken out, and the look on her face was good, but the screaming was not very convincing, and also just, like, the hand movements and the body language was not very good, so that was a bit of a turn off. And then speaking of a turn on after that, then it cuts to the teenagers playing in the field, and we've got like a slow motion girl running with no bra on, and like all the gratuitous, female stuff from the 80s. And so it was just really a time. I don't know what you would call that, a timepiece or, something to really set apart that era. But it definitely had some things in it that set it apart, especially like the POV camera of the killer, slowly creeping through the woods, watching the teenagers. That kind of stood out. A couple times, it dragged out a little bit too long. Maybe the kind of the blurry, slow motion. That's nothing, super, super amazing. But it was interesting. And especially the prank right at the very beginning. John, you might have something to say about this as well, but it was just kind of funny. I mean, like, when you think of a prank, you think of like a whoopee cushion, or like, freezing their underwear, or just different innocent things, not really placing a rotting skull in the guy's room and putting candles in the eye sockets, and then he knocks it over to burn himself, and he dies, and that's the whole reason he seeks revenge. I mean, what kind of prank is that?
Oh no, but what kind of person sleeps in the same room with a gas can full of gas? Was he huffing the stuff before he went to bed? I mean, come on.
Caretakers, they take their work home with them,
Apparently they do, because he sure did. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of a little over the top there at first. It's like, okay, he sees the skull. He knocks it over. He catches the blanket on fire. Then he jumps up and knocks the gas over. The gas catches on fire. Then he's on fire, run down, and gets thrown into the water. He falls in there, and all the kids run off like, oh, let's just go. It's like,
yeah. I mean, what I would have done is, like, have the gas in there, sure, but then, like, take a dog turd and put it in a sack, light it on fire, and throw it through the window or something like that, Like, that's that's a very, standard alternative for a rotting skull with candles in the eye sockets. But, I mean, other than that, it was just a funny little thing, and it had some good moments. Like you said, Jason Alexander with hair, I was like, what's going on? But I read somewhere that it was actually a wig, because he started balding at age 19. So it's kind of interesting, the things that Hollywood wants. You can't have a balding 19-year-old on camera, I guess. So, but yeah, overall, it was pretty good. Another thing that I was kind of iffy about, like I had to rewind this and look again, but later on, there's a sex scene in the woods, and they're going at it, and the guy's on top, and then all of a sudden he starts like really like just giving it to her, and he sounds like a beaver humping a log or something, and so he's like making these weird noises, and then he gets up and he's like, I'll be right back, and he walks off, and then he comes back, and then that's when he ends up getting murdered. And so this is a caretaker, keep in mind, so he's killing everyone with shears and like these giant scissor type things, and so he stabs the guy through the mid, like not really the midsection, just below the neck it looks like, and you can see the scissors come out the back through his shirt. And then the next scene, you see him being carried, but this time the scissors are up actually inside his neck in the Adam's apple area when he's being carried, which would not be poking through his shirt. But then later on he gets poked into the tree, and it's down lower again. So it's kind of interesting. I'd like to see how they filmed that, because like that would have been a lot of cleanup and moving the scissors around, and I don't know. That was just one of those continuity errors that I thought was kind of funny, but the practical effects overall were good. Yeah, I don't know if I'm very familiar with Tom Savini's work, but definitely, like, even the color of the blood, it was, spot on from what I could tell. So that was definitely a plus. So I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. And, like I said, a few things here and there. I know there's, like, on the raft scene, if you notice, whenever he's comes up and he's stabbing, he's cutting everybody's fingers off, stabbing them, whatever. He stabs the guy in the throat. When he pulls the shears up, they go back and look. Well, you see more blood pouring out of his throat. When it comes back, that prosthetic's still there. It's almost like they got their cut mixed up.
Yeah.
Where the scene was. It's like, uh-oh. Just one little detail like that. But, I mean, definitely the blood was really good. Good blood. Yeah. It flowed good. It looked right. It had the consistency.
I'm wondering how realistic it is, though. Like, even like the old woman with the bad makeup at the beginning of the movie, she gets stabbed in the stomach, and she's instantly bleeding from the mouth. And same thing with the other guy getting stabbed in the throat. I could see the bleeding from the mouth in that case, but it seems like, the bleeding from the mouth is just instant. I don't know if that's very realistic in that aspect, or if it's probably just for effect, I would imagine.
I think it's for effect mostly, because, I mean, just everything causes you to bleed out the mouth when you're stabbed in any of these movies. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, if you stab in the leg, you'll be bleeding out the mouth before long. Come on.
Right, exactly. It's got to work its way up there sometime.
It's pretty good, and I did like the fact that they kind of mentioned the Cropsey thing, because that's a huge story up in the New York, New Jersey area, and I'm sure most towns do have a Cropsey story. In fact, there's a documentary called Cropsey. I think it's either on Netflix, Hulu, or something. I've seen it before. It's actually a pretty good little documentary about it. But yeah,
interesting.
I kind of like the fact they incorporated a little bit of an urban legend into the movie itself, so that's kind of neat.
Yeah, they really had that, campfire type story time situation going on.
Yeah, and I mean, I did like that. When they're sitting around the campfire, and, he's telling the story of it, and, I mean, red herring, he was one of the kids involved in the accident.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like almost like they tried to save it for a big surprise. It's like, well, we kind of figured one of them was involved with it somehow.
Yeah.
At least I picked that up from the first of it. Like, okay, one of these kids was involved, especially whenever he's got that one kid after he went to Peepin' Tom in the shower.
Yeah.
Said there, 5 years ago I messed up and they sent me home. It's like, they sent you home? It's like, yeah, because you about killed somebody. Yeah, they're going to send you home.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I mean, and that's another thing I do have to say that's going to kind of draw back a little bit here, is the age of the campers compared to the age of the counselors. There couldn't have been more than 1 or 2 year difference in them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay, I've never been to camp. I never went to camp when I was a kid or nothing like that, so I don't know how old it goes on for. I mean, because these guys look like they were probably seniors in high school, and it's like, well, these other two look like they just graduated a year ago. It's like, come on.
Yeah. Usually you would think it stops around high school, but you never know. Some of those church camps, maybe they'll let you go as long as you want to.
Yeah, that's for another podcast.
Right.
That's a whole nother horror story.
Yeah, but overall, I think I'm going to give this movie a solid 3 out of 5. Just overall, I think it's a good watch.
Oh, I believe so. I think I'm going to go 3.5. I mean, I'm sorry, not 3. I'm sorry. Make sure I got it. Yeah, 3.5. So it says I go 3.5 because it's not perfect by any means, but it's fun. I mean, I enjoyed watching it. I'll watch it again sometime. I might wait. It might be one of those ones I wait a year or so, watch it again, and might get surprised again. Like, oh yeah, I remember that. Or maybe I'll pick something up I didn't catch the first time. I mean, you never know. You know what I mean? Just like a little trivia, like you were talking about the blurry vision through the camera. They wanted to get that effect that it was the Cropsey or the caretaker's burned vision, so they put Vaseline around the outside of the camera to give it that blurry vision looking through his eyes.
Yeah.
Was one thing. Let's see, and of course Tom Savini, he came to do this one, but he turned down doing Friday the 13th Part 2 to come work on this movie, because he done the special effects for the first Friday the 13th movie. So.
Oh wow! So I wonder how much effect Friday the 13th actually had on this movie, because like I said, production on this film actually started before Friday the 13th, but it didn't come out until a good bit after Friday the 13th came out. So it's kind of interesting how that happened. They must have seen that and changed a few things just to set it apart.
Well, they may have too. I mean, it already got blamed for being a knockoff of it. So
yeah.
I mean, whether or not it was or wasn't, who knows? I mean, they claim that they started production on this and writing this movie before Friday the 13th came out. So if they did, maybe it just happened to be that everything lined up. A couple of filmmakers did have the same idea at the same time.
Well, yeah, and you can count on. Well, I don't even know if you could count on one hand, but you could count a lot of movies that have taken place at summer camps that were horror films.
There's a lot.
Yeah. So who knows who's a knockoff of who, but just one of those things. People watch them, so.
Yeah, and I guess I was reading here, Tom Savini, of course, he done the makeup effects, especially for the burn Cropsey at the end, the caretaker. I guess he wasn't happy with that makeup effect. So I guess he only had 3 days to work on. He wished he would have had longer to really perfect it, because it still looked pretty good, but. I guess he wasn't completely happy. I guess he's more of a perfectionist than a lot of people are. So
always their own best critic.
Yeah, and that's
or
one thing
own worst critic.
I do have to admit, I like this. It was one movie. It's dead. It's over. It's not like the Friday the 13th where they bring the same character back 12 times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did kind of enjoy that it was just one movie. that, I mean, maybe it was because they didn't get as, they kind of lost money on this deal too. It looked like from their budget to their bring home the money on this one. See, it was like $1.5 million, and I believe maybe so they didn't quite make their money back on this. So
wow,
that,
I can't believe that movie cost $1.5 million.
It may not cost that much. Maybe it was more like $1 million. I mean, figure you were paying for the special effects more than anything, because Tom Savini had done, Dawn of the Dead by this time. He had done Prowler. He had done, some of these other movies. They probably paid a pretty good price for him alone.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Actor-wise, nothing major on that end of it, but
yeah, because that was pre-George Costanza, obviously.
Oh,
so
yeah. Holly Hunter and Fisher Stevens hadn't quite made it onto the scene as big as they were at the time. That makes a difference.
Yeah.
Like I said, but other than that, I mean, there's not a whole lot to talk about for the movie itself. I mean, I recommend it. It's a fun movie. I think people would enjoy it. But
oh yeah.
That's just, especially, it's almost like that, Night of the Demons movie. It's a popcorn movie. You get some story. You get some blood, violence, boobs, so, I mean, come on.
Yeah, and it's free on YouTube in HD.
Yes, that's even better.
Yeah, so...
I mean, as a collector, I'd like to own this on Blu-ray myself, just so I could have it, but that's my personal opinion. Yeah, okay, right here, I brought it up. Budget estimated at $1.5 million. Box office was $707,000. So it kind of bombed, but yet it's a popular movie now, so I guess it got more of a takeoff after it got on video. So
yeah, I'm sure the DVD sales made up for it, and now they're probably not making hardly anything considering it's free on YouTube. But people may not know about that. I don't know.
And they may not. And I mean, I knew they had a Blu-ray release from Screen Factory on this one, so that's pretty good for them. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I guess I'll tie up this end of it next week, because this is going to be our Halloween deal. We are going each week, and our next two movies will be Would You Rather, which was picked by Jeff from 2013, and it's available on Netflix. And I picked Witchboard from 1986, and you can find that on YouTube. HD quality, uncut, all that good stuff. I guess I can see a trend here. You're picking some of these newer ones, and I'm picking the 80s.
We're hitting both generations.
That's right. We're trying to fill in that gap. No.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I think this is working out pretty good. I kind of like doing this. And I'm assuming you're going to come up with another game, possibly?
Yeah, I've got you I'm looking at, so we'll see what comes out of it.
Great. Sounds good. Okay, finish that. So, Jeff, I'm going to let you do some plugs here, and we'll go from there.
Sure, yeah. So I think I've talked about it before, but we are getting the Jeff Jarman Show back up and running now. And so obviously you probably know I am Jeff Jarman. Just a quick side note. I didn't name it after myself for, an ego type thing. It started out years ago in Taekwondo when I would show up and Randy, my teacher, would be like, oh, hey, you guys know Jeff from the Jeff Jarman Show? And he just made up this fake show, and act like I was some famous celebrity on NBC late at night or something. And so eventually, back in 2008, believe it or not, I actually went ahead and made an actual Jeff Jarman Show. And so it's just kind of taken off from there. We haven't done an episode in probably a year and a half, roughly. So we actually just filmed the new one. And I filmed it to where basically we're catching up with some of these characters after the year and a half has, been over, and we're trying to find out what they've been doing for this time. So I went out and I filmed a new episode with Randy, and we filmed it at his house. And so it's just this entire episode, but playing different characters and things like that. And I think it turned out pretty funny. I'm getting good feedback so far. So if you want to see that, go to www.jeffjarman, JEFFJARMAN.TK. T is in Tom, K is in kitten. So, yeah, go ahead and check that out, jeffjarman.tk. It's on the homepage there. Also, you can find the Fright Corner through that website, and also some of the older episodes of my podcast, Edge of the Earth, which is basically a paranormal podcast, which might be starting back up sometime in the near future. It depends, because I've also got the movie project going on, which John is going to be a part of. He'll have a small role in the film, too, which I'm excited about. So So, yeah, lots going on, but please check out the new episode. If you like it, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, all that wonderful stuff. So, yeah, I'm at JeffJohn55 on Twitter, and that's about it, John.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, looking forward to this. Looking forward to doing some skits with you and stuff coming up here soon. So this could be a whole fun thing. And I want to plug also, I mentioned about the Horrorcast thing. If we're getting listeners from the Horrorcast, I appreciate you guys giving us a chance. And like I said, any older material that we have, I do put on YouTube, which I've seen that there's actually been some stuff going on YouTube. So that's good. I mean, hearing some people actually have listened through YouTube, which is awesome. That's why it's out there. But yeah, older content can be found on YouTube under the Fright Corner. Most episodes are there. Some of them are broke up into 1, 2, or 3 parts. Most of the later ones are all together. So that's always a plus. But yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, I'm hoping that we are getting listeners from there because that's great. Welcome to the show. Hopefully you'll stick around for us and see what we go from here, because it can only get better from here, is the way I figure. I started out rocky at first, and I think it's getting a lot better now. So I'm looking forward to see what happens in the future. But anyway, to get a hold of us, you can get a hold of us on @TheFrightCorner on Twitter, Facebook, The Fright Corner, YouTube is The Fright Corner, then thefrightcorner.tk for the website, which I'm starting to write up some blogs on some stuff. It just takes me some time because life gets busy, and we're getting ready to move in a couple of weeks, so that even makes it a little bit busier. So I'm not having as much time to sit down and type up everything that I want to type up. I just kind of take some notes as I go. But I'm going to have some blogs come up here soon.
And it's always kind of interesting, too, if you do write the blogs when, we can kind of get a perspective from your point of view on certain things, because you are kind of a horror expert. I'm not afraid to say that. So it's good for listeners, if they're interested in that sort of thing, to get that opinion, because I think, John, you're a pretty good judge of what's a good movie and what's not. So I definitely advise our listeners to check that out as well.
Yeah, and hopefully, I hope to have something up here this month. Some kind of 2 or 3 blog entries, nothing major. Just to kind of see where I'm at on it. Like I said, nothing too major. I mean, I think I got one started on a couple of movies that I've seen, and got one talking about why we like horror so much, what's the reasoning behind it, why do we like being scared. Also doing kind of one on remakes, which is a touchy subject for a lot of people, but I'm not afraid to take it head on, because I like the originals and I like some of the remakes too. I like them each for their different reasons. But other than that, I think that's all I've got this time. So until next time, make sure to keep horror alive and watch something that scares you. We'll see you next time right here in the Fright Corner.